have it.
It was it was
Wait,
about
wait, is
the
it? Is
uh,
it? Do you remember what it was? Wait until we're streaming to say it.
it was about how we should record stuff and put it at the beginning of episode.
Ah, yes. Like a cold open. I've seen a lot of like successful things that like I don't know, maybe it's just the algorithm or whatever, but like channels that I like have started doing this thing where they have a cold open, which is just like a highlight clip from later in the episode
Right.
to kind
Yeah.
of draw you in.
Yeah, I've totally seen that as well.
Bet. Let me
Yeah.
enter the meditative state that precedes all of our streams. Mm. Are we on?
We are on. Yeah.
Oh, fucking rad. I remembered what I said last time, by the way, before we started recording last session.
What was it?
The gist of it was, and this is way less funny the second time around because I'm just regurgitating like the half remembered. Somehow we got onto the idea that what drove innovation was not in fact military intervention. It was furries and fursuit owners and like weebs. So the reason they invented Velcro was so that Buzz Aldrin could have his fursuit ready for the moon landing. And the capstone for that particular segue was one small step for neon, one giant leap for neon kind.
Right. We were talking about wrist exercises. Right? Is that how it started?
That's fucking insane. Jesus H. We did it, boys.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Sounds good. All right. So, yeah. What happened with your campaign?
Hi, my name is Tristan. I've been a DM for, I guess, since 2017. So what is that? 4 years? 5 years? Maybe more. And I run a campaign set in the world of Ravnica, a Magic the Gathering setting, using D&D 5e. And last week we had an episode which was hot on the heels of a different episode that I did where we met at an unusual time because the week prior we'd missed an episode. So everyone was very head up about wanting to jump into it and not leave things on a cliffhanger. So we met that Saturday. We didn't record it, which sucked because it was a very powerful episode. So I joked that that was that's our Patreon exclusive episode. Unfortunately, none of us are subscribed to our Patreon, so it's going to be lost forever.
The lost episode.
The lost episode. We had a character death.
Whoa.
Jevan's character, Zithus, the Golgari druid, passed away, sacrificing his life to save his kind of adopted daughter that had been kidnapped by a villain from his past. So perhaps it is better that it did not get recorded because now I can kind of look back on it with rose-colored glasses and just kind of ignore all the very, very rushed plot elements I kind of introduced very hastily.
Yeah. You're the only one who noticed those.
Bet. Yeah, I think. Yeah, you're right. What is it that that one dude said? Like you will remember every embarrassing, mortifying, like unpleasant thing that ever happened to you, and your friends will only remember the good stuff, and it all just kind of comes out in the wash. Mm-hmm. So that episode, I introduced a villain that had been kind of lurking around the edges of the plot's periphery for a while. The Golgari druid was raising a adopted daughter, Zola, a Gorgon child, and she was concerned that this undead creature was like creeping around and like spying on her, and it would like periodically shed its skin. It's this weird porcelain-looking like doll creature. Like its body, like its muscles and viscera are made of this black ooze, and its exterior exoskeleton is this white porcelain that is constantly regenerating and breaking off and like growing back. So he'd been finding these porcelain masks, these creepy like elf like hollow masks that like made of porcelain like around his property. And he's like, I need to keep an eye out. And then like the boogeyman, I had uh, him go in and visit Zola, and Zola's like, I think I have to go home soon. And he's like, but you are home. And Zola's like, no, I think my mom came back. And she shows one of the masks that she found that he'd been keeping from her. Um, and he this like kneels down and like he's like tries to explain like, oh yes, so this is what I was talking about. The reason I didn't resurrect your teacher, your original adopted parent, was because they were corrupted, and I didn't want them to come back into your life and attack you or anything like that, which is exactly what I was afraid of, which was like 80% true. Like he definitely watched the teacher get coup de grace and then just like sort of kicked their body into a pipe. It's like, no, I'm not raising that. It's my character development daughter now. So a very selfless and selfish thing to do. So
Right.
Morley Gray, great character stuff. No problem with that. So he says all that, and then the daughter is like, just looks kind of sad and scared. It's like, that's what she said you'd say. And then like from behind him, her closet opens, and like the boogeyman, it fucking comes out at him. And for a second, he's ready for combat, and that's where we left off. And then we get back into it, and he's like, "Get behind me, Zola! Like I'll protect you from this thing." And the creature's like, "Don't talk about me like I'm not here." In this very imperious, like school teacher sort of voice, which like sets something off in him. Like I tell him, like it stirs like a memory, and I drop a couple more hints, and like he like suddenly his face like blanches, like he realizes that
Nice.
this is someone he recognizes. So I can't remember if we talked about this in specific before, but
We did.
this undead, this revenant, is a Celestian druid who raised him when he was a child and tried to do some kind of cult ritual to raise like a nature god, which cost him his sight. Like it mutilated him, and he escaped and lived as a Golgari after that. And so it looks like kind of not in media res, like kind of through context clues, they could divine that she had kind of started over, picked up another like wayward child, Zola, and was trying to recreate the ritual many, many years later. So, and through some accident of fate, he had ended up witnessing her demise and then causing her to become a revenant and come back and try and finish the job.
Mm-hmm.
So she recognizes him, and he is like stunned for a second. And then she summons these minions, these little creatures called Mir, which are like these little skeletal robots, like the size of like you watch The Mandalorian, like the size of like pit droids, basically. Yeah. Little skeletal dudes, but they have like these beaked faces, and Mir spelled M-Y-R, and they kind of crawl out from under Zola's bed and out of the closet and out of the rafters and under the floorboards, and they kind of combine together Voltron signs with like a big like Mir Superior, like an Uber Mir, big giant Terminator robot, which is going to obey the Revenant's beck and call. And it like the druid is wearing like a belt of giant strength, so he goes toe to toe with this robot, and his bravado kind of wins out, which works perfectly for me, the DM, as a storytelling device. And the villain, as it turns out, as he's like grappling with this robot, and out of the corner of his eye, he can see the Revenant getting away with Zola over her shoulder, and Zola's like, "Daddy!" and then his stronghold comes under attack from like a horde of like rhinoceri, commanded by this other cultist named Gired, Conclave Exile, another magic card. He's basically Celestian druid as well. His Celestians have this thing where they like their specialty is like summoning like creature tokens, so like rhinoceri and birds and like snakes and stuff. So his specialty was like summoning these beasts, which is kind of more native, more gruel, honestly, more like a fiery kind of nature magic. But he's like kind of a heretic when it comes to Celestian ideology.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to return to the old ways, and he's very kind of barbarous, not exactly very hippy dippy, although that was his upbringing. So it looks like he's aligned himself with this Revenant and is helping to distract Zithus and his stronghold guards by like running interference with this horde of rhinoceri that's like stampeding through his stronghold. So Zithus sees all of this, and then the robot like just clocks him with a shit ton of D12s and like knocks him cold. And when he wakes up, like it's like when in fucking Platoon or something, when like you wake up and like you're literally looking around, like you have the flashbang like in your ears. He's like still recovering, and his guardsmen come and tell him what happened. To Huggy, come and tell him what happened, and he has to kind of race to the rescue. And they tell him, you know where they're going, because he knows it's his old teacher come back with a vengeance, which means he's going to try and recreate the ritual, which means he knows which ritual site she's going to. I'm like, okay, this would be a great time to summon your friends. And he's like, no, I got to go do this myself. And I'm like, well, your friends have been sitting here listening very intently to this plot development for like 20 minutes now. So do you want to maybe call them?
So your friends like, show up.
And he's just like, I'm just going to go. And I'm like, okay, this NPC calls your friends. And so they chase after him in this flying ship that the Boros Legionnaire character has. And they're trying to catch up with him. And they're like, and I'm like, okay, so you're in the ship now. Like, you turn into an eagle, and then they caught you, and they kind of like, you know, knocked you on the head to kind of knock some sense back into you. And you could, this is like, now that you're flying to the location, this is a great opportunity to exposit and talk to your friends about what's happening. He's like, no, there's no time. And I'm like, I just gave you some time. Just fucking talk about it. He was very into the character aspect of it, just really like heavily method in character. And I think later he apologized and like a promise to like discuss it like out of character, which is whatever. But overall, I think it was a very character-heavy session, which everyone seemed to enjoy, like in the Afterglow. So they get to the ritual site, and there's like it's just like a floating island. Celestia has this kind of setup where they have all these like parks and gardens that are like floating like platforms, kind of hovering around their area of the city, because space is scarce in a world that is dominated by cityscape. So if you're like a nature druid sect, you don't have a lot of room to grow, so you make some. It's like floating hydroponic farm, floating, you know, nature areas. So the aesthetic is, I love that shit. I love high fantasy, high concept stuff. All about it. That's probably my favorite aesthetic aspect of Ravnica, is just like random floating platforms, like being part of the city.
Nice.
So they get there, and it's a little park with this little scraggly, like withered looking old tree. And the Revenant has tied Zola to it, like Witch at the Stake style. And her big robot is there as a guardian, and Gered is there with a couple of rhinoceri, and they're kind of just like patrolling the perimeter. And I'm like, okay, so they haven't seen you yet. You can, you know, devise a plan, go in, like, you know, talk about what you're gonna do. And the druid's like, just trust me, guys. And he abseils down to talk to the Revenant. And the rogue like rappels down and like starts climbing up like SEAL Team 6 style the bottom of the floating platform, and the sorcerer stands by with his arcane cannon, and everyone gets ready for battle. The battle never comes because he has some words with the Revenant, and he's like, it's not her you want, it's me. And the Revenant like speaks very condescendingly to him, like, oh, you are not worthy, you're corrupted, you know. And he has this great speech about like what purity really means, and like what, you know, like what this ritual requires, what it really means for the people of Celestia. And he offers to stay in Zola's place and be sacrificed. And Marvin's like, all right, Gered, kill him. And the heretic comes over with his big fucking glaive ready to do him in. And he's like, wait, can I have a few words with my daughter first? And he succeeds in his persuasion check, which is great because he has like no charisma. So hats off there. That was definitely fate. Revenant's like very well, and allows him to speak to Zola. And he kind of wakes Zola up, and he's like, he apologizes for what he's about to do, and he tells her how strong she is and how proud he is of her. And it's this really like heartbreaking moment. Like I in character started like, you know, kind of half crying, go like, no, please don't, because like she realizes what he's about to do. and then he goes over to the big sacrificial bowl and reenacts the ritual from his youth, and like he's like kind of harming himself, and his body starts to like kind of resist because like you have instincts that kick in when you feel
Mhm.
like you're dying, which would ordinarily like stop because of the pain. But then like he feels like these two dead characters that are like part of his history, like they have his hands on his shoulders, like they're spurring him on, like giving him strength to continue. And he, Kali Ma, tears out his own heart and lets it fall into the sacrificial bowl and then falls over dead. And then the party's like, no, we got to get down there. And I'm like, well, this is happening. So I start describing the ritual going off, and I start playing some fucking Colin Stetson, like haunting music. Like, I don't know if you ever watched Hereditary. It was this horror movie that he did the score for. But the dude is like, he's like a maniacal evil genius when it comes to music. Like he takes like woodwind sections and he turns them into like these haunting refrains that are like almost like listening to the concept of a spiral. It's nutty, like
Nice.
mind-bending music. I use that word lightly. You see the word mind-bending thrown around a lot, when critics talk about something that Grant Morrison wrote or whatever. This music is mind-bending. So I put on the track he did from Hereditary, and it's like this thing that is very like the tone of the song is very hymnal, very like almost religious, but like as the chimes and the woodwinds and like this weird horn kind of crescendo, it's almost a little bit scary because it's like the song, I don't know, what synesthesia is, right? Where like
No,
you can
I
kind of
don't.
mix up. Synesthesia is this, well, it's a real medical thing where you can kind of mix up your senses, mix up color and sight and taste and sound. So like a
Okay.
synesthesia could listen to music and say, this music sounds blue. Like I see the color blue when I listen to this music, or and like this chili pepper like tastes like silver or whatever. It kind of it's crossed wires, but it's kind of when it's not debilitating, it can be kind of beautiful in its way, and it's the kind of thing you see a lot when people are describing stuff like with purple prose.
Mhm.
So this music, I can't oversell it enough. Is like it's like the concept of light and of like becoming and of a dawn breaking and of like a new order awakening. Very like religious overtones, but like there's a fear and like a kind of like strange alienness to it as well. Like it's too bright. Like how like old biblical angels are like these fucked up like amalgamations of like giant eyeballs and flaming wings. Like
Mhm.
there's a reason when an angel appears in the Bible, the first thing it says is "Be not afraid," because OG biblical angels are like horrifying abominations. So that is the feeling I'm trying to evoke with this music choice.
Mhm.
That I'm playing for my friends as I describe what happens next. As the sacrifice is complete and Zola is like weeping in terror, the tree that she's tied to starts to rumble, and from underneath its roots start to expand and grow. And like something uprooting itself from a potted plant, this giant elemental made out of like tree bark and roots pulls itself out of the earth, growing bigger and bigger and stronger. And this is basically like an avatar of the closest thing Ravnica has to a god, which is
Mhm.
Ma'at Celestia, um, like the OG progenitor of the Celestian Druid sect, their god. So this is an avatar of that. It's like an awakened nature spirit, extremely powerful, like a bastion, a beacon of pure, green nature energy and white like light energy. And it's like there's if for a moment they think the sun is dawning, even though it's like 9 at night, because there's like a corona of like light behind its head, like a big fucking angelic halo. And
Mhm.
the poor girl's like still tied to the tree on top of its head, like it's just up there. And it grows, and it's like a big fucking kaiju standing astride this giant potted planet, this floating platform it's pulled itself out of. And the Revenant is like fucking Ozymandias from Watchmen, like, yes, I did it! And it's like this crowning moment of glory for the Revenant. He's like, yes, now cleanse this world of taint. It says as it, because it oversaw the ritual, so it's commanding it what to do. And the elemental looks at this corrupted Revenant full of evil Phyrexian alien oil and is being told to cleanse this world of taint. And it's like, okay. And it just takes a big fist and just brings it down like a fucking meteor on the Revenant and fully like plants it in the earth, just like there's just a
Nice.
smoking crater where it was as it cleanses the world of the taint right in front of it, and just ices the villain immediately. The robot like doesn't know what to do, so just kind of goes over to the crater where it last saw its master and just kind of sits down there and waits for more orders. And Gered, the heretic, is just like falls to his knees and like drops his weapon, just like because he's witnessing the beneficent, apotheosis of his god. So all the fight's gone out of him, and so everyone is struck by the beauty and the terror of this thing, and the party um, is like no, but also like oh my god, and they see this body like kind of rolling on the ground. It's about to fall off the edge of the platform because it's been like this thing's rocking back and forth. So the sorcerer casts fly and like dives into action to rescue his body and returns him to earth as the elemental like snaps the ropes that are on top of the tree in its head and slowly like rescues Zola and brings her back down to earth.
Awesome.
And she weeps as she leans over Zithis' body. They can't resurrect him because all they have is raise dead and revivify, and neither of those restore lost body parts. And his heart was removed and destroyed by the ritual. And no heart means you can't live again because that's a missing body part.
Right.
So he's dead for real. So
well, and I think bringing him back would like remove all of the sacrifice that he gave.
That is exactly the conversation we had, like kind of during and after that session, which was there was a possibility that the elemental could have like raised him and like kind of inducted him into a different sect and changed his character path, and that would have been interesting in a different kind of way. But this was more impactful, right. I feel, which is why we I spoke with the player like during and after. I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, this feels right. Awesome. So kneeling over his dead body, Zola like weeps openly and like is overcome with emotion, and then she disappears in a flash of light, because in Magic the Gathering canon, when you are a planeswalker, the way you become one is you have a spark inside of you that ignites when you are overcome with like a height of like overwhelming emotion. And she basically disappears into another plane because that's what she is. That's why she was so desirable by these other forces, the Phyrexian invaders and this Revenant, and this kind of like seeing in her innately this potential. So Zola's gone. Zithis is dead. The party is just kind of left stunned, wondering what happened. The elemental grows this big like canopy branch like set of wings and starts like these leafy wings and starts flying into the horizon like to cleanse the rest of the world of taint, like so because there's other Phyrexian elements that the party hasn't been able to take care of. And to describe how like down below, they learn about it later, like Zithis' compound underground guards are like finding these statues of Phyrexian alien invaders that have been petrified and like smuggled over to this realm, ready to be unpetrified to take over the world. And they're slowly kind of going through all these hidden caches and hiding places, trying to cleanse the world of these sleeper agents ready to go. And as the being passes over, like the sheer presence of it, like Thanos snaps these hidden invaders, like kind of closing that chapter, essentially. Nice. And it also helps in that Zithis' sacrifice allows it to heal some of the world leaders that had been corrupted by the Phyrexian viral agent and were like on their deathbed. The reason they're going to Ixalan, one of the reasons was to collect this artifact called the Immortal Sun, this big machine that's like a source of white mana that would cleanse them of this contagion. So some of the world leaders are now on the mend thanks to the presence of this avatar. And we have some heartfelt, goodbyes. They held a funeral for Zithis' character. He writes kind of in media res a living, like a will and testament, which he passes on, allowing the characters to collect some of his treasure and his holdings, and like says goodbye to them. Everyone has a good cry, and that's where we left that session. The one following was more downtime as the party kind of just went about their business, getting ready to go to Ixalan. And at the finale of that session, I had another kaiju battle they saw on the news as the avatar is still around. It's only here for a limited amount of time, it tells them. So they know it's only going to be here for a while, but while it's there, it's doing good works and like cleansing the world of evil. So it's headed towards Simic territory, and Simic are like the fantasy Pfizer, fantasy J&J of that world, in that they make pharmaceuticals and GMOs and stuff, but also they make fucking mutants and like bioengineered fucking terror organisms.
Right.
You know, so the Simic are like talking to the news about how this thing is a danger to their work and they don't want it near that. Like the public views it as just like an elemental, like a rogue elemental that's under the control of the Celestia. And the Simic are like, curtail your whatever, or we'll respond in force and like defend our land. So the Avatar gets a little too close to the Simic like headquarters, and they deploy like an Evangelion style like kaiju from underneath their lake. Like the lake opens up into a hangar, and like this big thing comes out. And one of the characters, who is Simic himself, recognizes it as the former leader of his guild, Zagana, who was a merfolk who was corrupted by the Phyrexian agent during the initial viral attack where they defended against they defended themselves against their old dead comrade Hist, the lizard folk, and a lot of the guild leaders were corrupted by that viral agent. So the Simic, rather than attempting to cure Zagana, kind of ran tests on her, installed a new like reactionary leader to their guild, and that person is like experimenting on their former leader, turning him into this kaiju, basically like using the Phyrexian pathogen and like kind of accelerating its mutation, kind of guiding it. And they're like, yeah, we can control this because nothing bad has ever happened when we like mess with science before, right? So not only that, but the Simic guy's partly responsible for this because he gave them Eldrazi flesh as well. Like there's like a Cthulhu monster that attacked, and he collected some pounds of flesh and gave it to them. So this former like ally of his is now like it's like Akira basically, where it's been bonded with this like all manner of shit. It's like they got Cthulhu DNA in there. They got like robotic implants. They got the fucking Phyrexian evil alien DNA in there. So it's like a giant kaiju Cthulhu xenomorph that used to be his friend. And the Simic deploy her to combat the elemental. So it's a big kaiju fight where they like destroy like hundreds of homes and businesses. And then the kaiju gets Ma'at Selesnya, the Avatar, like in a chokehold, like bears down and like her face like opens up into these multiple like glowing yellow eyes, and they start crying these black tears that like cascade onto it like acid, like partially destroying it. And the Simic guy, like just watching this in his underwear, like in his apartment, is like, oh shit, Jesus God, and like grabs the trident of office, which is supposed to be like the master key to all these organisms that the Simic creates. He grabs this magic trident and he like points it out the window, trying in vain to control this kaiju that used to be his friend and stop it from destroying the Avatar that they watched their friend sacrifice so much for. And he makes a spellcasting ability check with a very high DC, which he passes.
Wow. And
he's able to temporarily cause like the kaiju to back off and like clutch at its head. And the Avatar, like the Celestian druidic Avatar, crawls away and falls into the Undercity somewhere where it can try and recuperate or lick its wounds. It is like debilitated, dying. Right. The Simic deploys some soldiers which like retake their kaiju back into containment, and that's where we left that last session. So
nice.
That should have finished downtime. So by all means, they're ready to go to this other world to Ixalan. But something tells me they're going to want to go visit this Avatar or do something with it. I don't have anything planned for that.
Yeah.
Should I?
I mean, have an idea of what they're going to do. Like that they're going to try to fix it, right? Fix it up.
Yeah, probably.
And it's supposed to be there for a limited time. So maybe it's time's up and they get to go and say goodbye to it.
Yeah. Maybe it leaves like a parting gift or something. Like one last dose of healing energy they could use on one of their favorite NPCs or something, like a magic item, or like a really good healing potion, or like a get out of jail free card, like a potion of revivify or something.
Yeah, something. Yeah, That'd be cool. Something pretty powerful, but only usable once.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
I'll probably do that if they want to go there. They may want to try and assault the Cynic base and rescue their old friend, which they're pretty powerful. I don't know if I'm ready to do a whole ass other dungeon again when they're ready to go to this other world, but
Right.
should I try and like steer them away from that or just roll?
I would I would I wouldn't steer them away from it, but I would let them know that you don't have anything prepared for that because you didn't want to prepare a whole dungeon just in case they decide to go in there. So like maybe plan an initial assault.
Yeah.
Right. So
if they do want to go to dungeon, I'd just be like have the opening notes of that particular symphony.
Yeah, and what does D&D Beyond have for that? Said it's Simic, right?
That's right.
Sources.
That's right. Guildmaster's Guide does have like some like. I love how.
Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, so good.
Yeah.
So good for not Ravnica. So good for whatever you want it to be.
Bet. Yeah, it has like a chapter. It's like it details each of the 10 guilds and like here's how you could play a character or a whole party from this guild, and then it's like here's how you could play a villain from this guild or like a conflict from this guild.
Here's how your party can work for this guild, even though they're not of this guild.
Yeah.
So there is I don't know. It looks like a 15-room map maybe here.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a map for everything in there. Every what's it called has a map.
That rules. Okay, I'll do a 15-room map.
Like I mean, so
because the Simic player, the character, has pretty high clearance, so maybe like he gets them through what would be otherwise like a sprawling, huge like dungeon complex. And he's like, I can get you this close, and then they have to fight their way through 15 rooms. Yeah. And like while I'm doing the dungeon, I can slow them down with traps and puzzles and monsters and like prepare more of the rooms, like kind of the way I did with Frankie's Tower, if that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Definitely want to do.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can use up a lot of time by just having the conversations to get them into the place. You know.
Yeah.
Having, detailing that passing security and how much security there is. Maybe foreshadowing what they're going to have to take on the way out.
Yeah.
Right? Like saying how it's not like Selesnya where it's all open, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be all closed down, and the deeper they go, the more closed down it's going to be, and the more guards there's going to be.
More labyrinthine.
Right.
Because like it's a science facility. So
So they're not just going to be able to blast out of the top of it at the end and be free of all these guards. So it can serve as foreshadowing and a warning of all the people that they're going to have to kill to get out of here.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't know if your players are thinking about things that way. But you can, allude to them,
Yeah.
Guards discussing their family, or hey, can you sign this for my daughter? She's a really big fan of your guys. Because they're well known, right?
They are. They're heroes.
Yeah.
They're like a public face.
Yeah, so you can throw in a couple of stuff like that. Hey, our family loves you, kind of things. Just sprinkle a couple of those in.
Every guard has a name. Every guard has a family.
While they're passing the first level guards that they're just going to have to destroy on the way out.
Yeah. Just like in Last of Us. Last of Us 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that I thought about when Zedis' character died. And like, some of the players were lamenting kind of half in character, like, oh, there are these things that this is wanted to do. There's these things I wanted to talk to Zedis about. And I'm like, well, kind of like what made Last of Us 2 brilliant was like, when someone dies or leaves your life, the greatest tragedy is what goes unsaid. Like the point of spoilers for Last of Us 2, but the point of how like the reason Joel died, with like Ellie having this conflict with him and still being unable to say these things, and like him not, their relationship not being fully developed to its, you know, logical conclusion, was that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like that because that's what happens when someone leaves you. So yeah, that's what made it, death, feel like a real tragedy. That's what made it make sense. So Last of Us 2 did this as well. So you have these, instead of just like hordes of mooks, you take time playing as the villain, getting to know all these different people. Every single one has a name, every single one has a backstory and like a connection to your personal history. And then you switch to the Vengeance character, and like you have all these NPCs, these enemies you have to mow down, and like you recognize each one like from their face or their death cry as you mow them down. And you're like, oh right. Jesus, oh no, he's not gonna pick his kid up from soccer practice. People give that game a lot of shit, but it's just because they're mad and sad because their favorite character died, and they're not processing their emotions fully.
Yeah.
So back to the game, the story. So all right, that makes sense. I've got a dungeon and a half there. I can work with that. If they want to go to Ixalan, I had a couple things planned for the opening notes of that symphony. They are using a magic item from that plane as a focus for their portal. Mm-hmm. It is a magic machete belonging to an old ally of theirs, Hualmez, who was a planeswalker native to that plane, who came to Ravnica and died many centuries ago and was kept there as a revenant and undead, you know, kept alive by vengeance. And they kept him around for a while until accidentally they cast a spell that let him see his world again. And all he wanted to do was see his world's sky. And so as a result, he was able to be at peace and perish. So he's gone. I've been playing with this concept where like going between planes for them messes with time a bit, because in canon, Magic the Gathering canon, there was this thing called the mending, which made it so that only planeswalkers with Spark innately could travel the blind eternities to other planes. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call. Ugh. Hey, Dad, what's up? Yeah, she's here. Cool, bye. Sorry, so only planeswalkers, like these legendary characters, can go between planes. That's like the specific to that canon. So it used to be that anyone with a portal could go between, or like a magic flying ship could go between, kind of like it is in Forgotten Realms. You know, right. You've got your plane shift, your blue veil, whatever. So I liked the idea of the way Louis Zima, the Izzet character's interplanar portal works, is it kind of cheats that system by plucking tachyon particles, like particles from the past, and creating like just aerosolizing like the chamber around the portal with this air that's from a different time, back when portals worked that way, which causes the portal to work.
Nice.
So, but every time they do that, kind of unintentionally, they are bringing more of this past energy, like this radiation from the past, into their present time, and kind of muddling the timeline essentially. Mm-hmm. Like you have the petri dishes that it's like one is red, one is blue, and in order to make their portal work, they are taking eyedroppers from the red one and dropping into the blue one to temporarily make it purple. But over time, they're going to mix, and that's going to create havoc with their timelines. So the way I've resolved that is like every time they go to a different plane, it's not just the story of that plane in Magic the Gathering canon. Like they don't just follow like what happens in that Magic set. Like there's always an extra element like of chaos that like kind of changes the shape of the story and kind of highlights that like their presence there is sort of unnatural.
Okay, that's so
cool. So when they went to Kaladesh, the technology like India flavored plane, it wasn't just the Aether Revolt and like the revolution they were dealing with. It was also the invading Phyrexians, and like this alien presence that was like mucking things up. When they went to Kamigawa, the Japanese spirit plane, it wasn't just the War of the Spirits. It was that the timeline was all out of whack, and it was modern day Kamigawa like being subjected to an ancient war of like ancient gods and spirits and like warlords and like samurai coming out of nowhere because they were there. So like the timelines were kind of like laid over each other. So you had like modern buildings laced over with like ancient like pagodas just kind of like slapped on there, like they'd collided. And now they're going to Ixalan. And my first thought was I wanted to have that short boss fight we talked about, where they go to Battle Bond Coliseum Gladiator World. And I like that, like, so they've got like a gal in the chair, their oracle basically, who's like commandeering the portal for them, like helping them guide them to their place of where they're going.
Right.
So they're using the sword as a focus. My thought was they go through the portal and it's dark first, because that's how it is. Like the world has to kind of load in, so they can see where they are, and they hear like a roar, like, and then like, but it's not the roar of waves; it is the roar of a crowd. And then they see, like in the distance, the glint of steel, and they recognize the sword that they're using as a focus. But it's much like in better repair. It's clearly the same sword, but like from the past, and it's in the hand of a young warrior who bears a remarkable resemblance to their friend, their deceased friend Jualmez, and he's doing battle in this gladiator arena. And then like they just see him, and he gets distracted and looks at them, and he's like, "What? Who are you?" And then like whoever he's fighting like clocks him from behind, and like he falls at their feet. And then I introduce like the two like villains they're gonna have to fight right there. The duo Ornstein and Smo like style villains. They're like what are they? Their names are Gorm and Virtus. They don't really have like a lot of like plot significance for Magic, but for players of the card game, they're kind of like fun meme characters. They can be pretty deadly when used together on the battlefield. So I was gonna use like one of their flavor texts from the cards. Like they're these two like big shot gladiator arena battlers. One's like a big dude. He's a giant, so he just uses a shield as a weapon because he's so huge. And his buddy Virtus is like a tiefling, an Azra, who has these deadly daggers that do a very small amount of damage, but when he hits you, you lose half your life rounded up. So it's like Gorm runs interference, like he's the tank, the bruiser, the aggro puller, and Virtus like runs around like DPS basically. So like they've somehow messed up time. They've gone back to a time like they honed in on the sword, and Jualmez is holding the sword in the past, and he's fighting these gladiators because he's a planeswalker. He can go where he wants, and they've got him at their feet, and they look up at Gorm and Virtus, and Gorm's like, "Who's this, Virtus?" Virtus says, "Nobody, Gorm, nobody at all," because they're like these Team Rocket style, like very cocky villains that I think they'll have a lot of fun fighting. So now they've got to not just defeat Gorm and Virtus, but protect Jualmez from dying, because if he dies, he'll never go to Ravnica and be a revenant and help them on that one quest and like shape their history. If he dies, timeline's completely out of whack, and that lets me like play absolute havoc with whatever I want to do with this set, right, if he dies. So, and that's where picturing it now, I've spent a lot of time like picturing that intro scene, like kind of writing stuff about it. I'm worried they'll like get mad at me as players for not taking them directly to Ixalan, because they've been talking about it all day, like how excited they are to go to Ixalan Dinosaur World and like be pirates and see dinosaurs. And I'm like, well, first you're going here.
Well, maybe this is future Ixalan.
Maybe. Could be. My also thought was I could just like step back for a second and out of character be like introduce the milestone quarter system you talked about. Like it's like this fight is 1/4 of a level up. Like you've got one from Zithis dying, this will be 2, and that might assuage them. Yeah, I don't know. You can never really predict how players are going to react. And in character too, I can have their gal in the chair like in contact with them, like, oh shit, I messed up the triangulation, hang on, just stay there for a few rounds, I'll get you out of there. And it's like the HUD pops up with like objective survive.
And then like that leads into like things going wrong, leads into them because they're losing their gear this adventure, right?
They are.
So that kind of feeds into shit's going wrong, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you guys fucking appear fucking 1/4 mile above the fucking ground and crash down or something, knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
However you're planning on doing that can feed into that.
Yeah. And they know that at some point I was going to try a survival arc where they would lose their gear. I talked to them about it like months ago.
Yeah.
So they know it's coming. So that won't be too much of a nasty surprise. And I had one more thought about Ixalan that I'm really excited to try that came to me kind of in a dream, and I developed it over the last few days. Ixalan in canon is this place where, because there's this Sphinx here who once was a planeswalker, and he took his spark and transplanted it into this machine, the Immortal Sun, it keeps people from leaving. It's like a honeypot, a trap. Once you planeswalk to Ixalan, you can't leave. So there's all these cards that are kind of infamous in Magic history in terms of like playability, that they are banned or they are reviled by other players because they're too strong or whatever. I've already got like one character that I'm gonna like introduce as like an antagonist who is represented like by a card who's been banned a whole bunch. I was like, what if Ixalan is like the land of banned and like infamous cards?
That's
yes.
Awesome.
So
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah. We've got like Zur the Enchanter, who's like banned in competitive EDH because he just wins on the spot, and he's got like his own ship, which he's just enchanted to do everything for him, and he has all these magic spells. And he's like an insane wizard, just like teleporting all around. We've got like Uro the Titan, who's just like a living island, and like on their journey in a ship, they're like, I think that island's following us. And, like they notice it 2 days in a row, and if they attack it, like a big giant like Clash of the Titans Titan living island stands up and starts chasing them, and I can post like, oh, it's Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, was banned in Theros Standard. There'll be like a floating Zendikar island with like Omnath on it, so they can recover some of their Zendikar items. I'm really gonna enjoy going hog wild with that concept, with the land of banned cards. Like the reason, like it never made sense to me why in canon the Sphinx came to this plane and like did this thing with the Immortal Sun. Like, what was he trying to keep there? There wasn't anything on Ixalan, like in canon, like there wasn't anything there that particularly needed to be contained, as far as I could tell. Like, it didn't make sense to me why he did that. And now I think with my edition, it will begin to make sense, because of all these infamous MTG characters that are too strong for the rest of the multiverse. So he needs to keep them here.
That's awesome.
There's going to be a lot of recognition from these players. They're going to be like, oh no, it's this guy. Oh shit, he's going to be really strong. And then like, on the same token, they'll be like, oh boy, I can't wait to see what Ludi has. I think they're really going to like that.
And are they banned cards?
Are they
destined to stay on Ixalan?
Are they trapped here?
Or are they going to steal that Golden Sun thing and take it back like they plan to, and let everything fucking loose? That's fucking so awesome.
I'm really excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I have jawed for quite a while about my campaign. Is there anything you want to talk about yours, or want to take some questions?
I've got stuff to talk about. So we finished Tomb of Horrors. We didn't talk about that yet.
We didn't.
Yeah. I think I know I told you, I don't remember if I said it on here, but I messed up on a one-way door, and you guys skipped not a big chunk, but like 3 puzzles, probably. Which isn't too big of a deal, I don't think. But yeah. So
sometimes you miss out on stuff, and it's sad, but you move on.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way a lot of dungeons are designed, though. You don't always hit their secrets,
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's definitely something that a DM should expect. Right, we were talking about Tomoe-chan and how you guys ran through that. And you missed a lot in there.
Yeah.
I mean, insignificant now, but significant then.
Definitely.
So how did that feel, finishing the Tomb of Horrors? Was it as hard as you've heard?
It was. There were some tense moments, but I never felt like my life in particular was in danger. I was surprised by like how, not tame, but like accessible it seemed.
Yeah. I think some of that has to do with the 5e.
Yeah.
Some of that has to do with you knew what you were walking into.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, 5e is so much more forgiving than any other edition, I think, that I've played. Because you guys basically can't die right now.
It's really hard.
It's really hard. I mean, that Lich fight I got pretty close. I was worried about.
Yeah.
I was I got halfway through that, and I was like, okay, here it comes. I planned for this TPK.
You did plan for it.
Oh yeah.
What happens if we all die? Can I ask?
A Sararak would have just like, you would have seen his face lean into yours, right? And he fucking snatches the book back and says, "I guess you weren't worthy."
God.
And then you wake up outside the tomb and it's gone.
Oh jeez. And we just have to fight Gazer without the aid of the book then.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Didn't plan that far.
he would have had to have been kicking himself because like he invested so much time and energy into finding someone worthy. And then if he fails again, like I'd fucking kill myself if that happened.
Well, I mean, that's his last 1,000 years, is waiting for someone worthy enough to get through. Waiting in that fucking mansion, waiting. Oh! Go reset the traps.
Yeah. God, and then he turns into a demi-lich because it's like Cars and fucking JoJo. Eventually, he stopped thinking.
I've got another perspective on that, and it's more like a Niflheim, I think it was called in The Magicians. Did you watch The Magicians or read it?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
I think it's on, or no, it's good. It's really good. If it's on Netflix, watch it. It was one of those things that it was a good version of a book turned into a show.
Nice. That's always lucky.
But one of these things was like, if you fucked around too much with magic and like push yourself too far, you could turn into a Niflheim, and it was basically a spirit, and it was a bad thing and it was an evil thing. But then like one of the characters turns into one.
Jesus.
And like it was I think it was her brother, and he's just like, "What are we doing here? Let's go. Let's fucking get the fuck out of here and learn everything there is to know, because there's way more shit out there than there is here."
Wow.
So it's like this fucking out of body kind of existence.
Huh.
That Sararak is on.
Interesting.
With his buddy.
His buddy?
Vecna.
Oh, good.
You know. Helping you guys out. Making sure you got there. Making sure you put him down.
Oh, Lord. It was Vecna the whole... So Vecna's been guiding us probably like the whole campaign then, huh?
No, just since you got the Tome of the Stilted Tongue.
Gotcha. I mean, if you exist outside of time and space, like, why not? Like, fuck with us on that level. Like, you could easily say that he, like... It's kind of like in Bioshock when you get the reveal, the moment. Spoilers for Bioshock, 15-year-old game, but there's a moment where you find a room which details how you are being mind controlled by a control phrase, which is "Would you kindly?" And it like you flash back to all the times on the radio that a character told you, "Would you kindly go and do this? Would you kindly go and kill this character? Would you kindly do that?"
Nice.
And it's like, well, the game is somewhat linear because like you can explore like the different maps and stuff and like make different like gameplay choices on how to complete an objective. But ultimately you have to do what happens in each level. You have to kill this enemy. You have to go through this gate. So it's like a retroactive, like, gotcha, like, you know, player choices is an illusion kind of moment. And they did it very well in that game, and they did it again in Bioshock Infinite, where it was way less compelling. I don't know. But, hey, cutie. Oh, no. Breaking news. Fully vaccinated Americans don't need to wear a mask, indoors or outdoors, in most settings, or socially distanced, the CDC says. May 13th, 2021.
And I'm like, how are we supposed to tell that those stupid anti-vaxxers are vaxxed?
We need to get tattoos. Tattoos on our cheek. Vax.
Yeah. We need to get tattoos on our cheek. It says VAX.
Well, I mean, I wear foundation. You couldn't look like a gangster.
It's going to be fucking insufferable dealing with those fucking assholes at work. God, I'm going to kick some ass. Oh, Boise. So
get ready for another spike.
Yep. Get ready for another spike, baby.
Huh?
Get ready for another spike in fucking infections because people are idiots.
Well, I mean, wouldn't the anti-vaxxers be like dying? Or their children?
You'd think, huh?
I mean, we need less children anyway. You know, I don't like them.
I love you, baby.
They steal your money and your youth. I don't want them.
I thought old people stole your youth.
Old people steal my energy.
Ah, okay.
Except for Grandma G, I like her.
She likes Grandma G is your favorite. You're her favorite too, babe. So player choice is an illusion. So as a DM, it's great to be able to go retroactively, like, this was all my design, like everything that has transpired is done so according to my design. So we could totally have Vecna say, yeah, like, I was in control of your adventure from the beginning. I made sure you survived all these different things.
Right. Yeah.
I'm afraid the bubble will be quite online.
Yeah, retroactively placing plot is a really cool thing. So I started another game. I started playing Thursdays with my family, basically. My two sons and my brother-in-law, Juju.
That rules.
So we're playing Worlds Without Number.
What's that? Which
is, it's kind of an old school game, but with modern conventions. It's basically a D20 game, but the setting is really weird. I was reading the rules and I was like, I know what setting I'm going to use this with, so I'm not really interested in the setting. But then I read the setting and I was just like, oh my God, I want to be here. It's this latter Earth that's been conquered by aliens. And the aliens came and like dicked with everybody's biology and fucked some people up, and they like terraformed the world so they could live there. They hollowed out the earth and, you know, stored people underground for food and work.
Whoa.
And then something happened and all the people underground rose up, and now the aliens are gone. Is it because people rose up? Is it because they were bored? Is it because they died? Nobody knows. But it's this post-apocalyptic, like, crazy sci-fi fantasy world.
Awesome.
And
is there magic, or is there just technology?
Oh, there's magic. Yeah. No, it's it's sword and sorcery with fucking ancient tech. It's almost like Numenera, but Numenera is really sci-fi. Really sci-fi.
You know what else it reminds me of? The Breath of the Wild, Zelda.
I never played it.
They've always kind of toyed with that concept, like the temples you explore and the puzzles you solve are based on ancient technology, indistinguishable from magic, but like it comes into focus in Breath of the Wild because it's like the first Zelda that's really like post-apocalyptic. You explore beautiful rolling grasslands and high mountains and waterfalls and deserts and all that kind of stuff. Classic Zelda fare. But like the ruins of like the ancient like civilization past are clearly evident. Like the enemies are mostly like ancient hyper advanced machines that are under the control of the evil like warlord dark spirit. And like the magic swords you find, the glowing blue swords, are basically like lightsabers and stuff. They're like low repair so they break, but like they're weapons made of like light, like nanotechnology and stuff like that. And like so you could go one moment you're like fighting goblins with a stick, and then you open a chest and you've got like a fucking like laser sword that will break after a while.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love shit like that. I love post-apocalyptic settings. I think have a certain draw to them where they are what is it? As an author, you're drawn to them because the conventions of society have been destroyed, but the world has not. Patton Oswalt had this great like thesis about like as an author or like someone or like as a gamer or like anyone really, you are like one of three things. You're a zombie guy, spaceship guy, or wasteland guy. So if you're a zombie guy, the artifice of society and the structures of the world remain intact, but all the people are gone. They're replaced by zombies. And spaceship guy, you leave the world in its entirety behind, and the world is gone. So you're exploring something else completely. And then the wasteland guy, like the people remain, but the world, the society is gone. And you want to explore those themes.
It's pretty cool.
Whatever draws to you most innately. And like it just so happens that each of those like like thought conventions attaches itself neatly to a sci-fi concept, which I thought was cool.
Yeah,
I definitely feel like I'm a wasteland guy.
Yeah,
I like exploring like old ruins conceptually, and just like wondering what could have been here. The mystery is what draws me, I think.
A lot of D&D stuff is post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
I mean, Forgotten Realms is built on literally Forgotten Realms.
Out of Coach.
You know, Greyhawk is the same way. Most fantasy settings are, you know, societies have risen and fallen and risen and fallen and risen and fallen, right? Skyrim, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or Oblivion, I think, is when you started exploring elven runes, right? And there are still elves around, but they have no connection to these runes. And the dwarves were a thing, and
all disappeared.
Yeah, it's a big thing in Morrowind that touched in Oblivion and Skyrim, I think.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm right here.
Want to go get coffee?
My boyfriend's on the phone.
So anyway, the big draw to this game for me initially is the author, Kevin Crawford. He does these amazing like GM centric books that are they're a setting, and he's got systems. Originally was a setting, Red Tide. It's like an island setting where this it's a Asian themed, but this red tide had like rolled over the land and just murdered everybody, and it's now receding, right? And people are kind of going out and exploring what has happened after this fucking tide had come. But what it is, it gives you a map, and it says, here you go, but there's nothing on the map. It says, here's how you place things on the map. Here's how many things should be there. Here's how you put them down. Here's some tables to roll on to figure out what they do.
So the map is like an empty canvas, and each square could have an island or a ruin or a ship or like a dragon or something in it. That is exactly what I want to be doing with my Ixalan map. Like I want to have a big grid and just like people it in, kind of like Zelda again. Wind Waker had that. It was also post-apocalyptic in that like the ocean had risen, covered up all of these places. All that was left were like the tallest peaks of different mountains that became islands essentially. And so you go around and like every square on the map has at least one thing in it, even if it's just like one buried treasure chest or a little island with a puzzle on it or this or that. So like you gradually like cover them in. That's exactly what I want to do. Is there a way to so Red Tide, is that also a D20 thing? Is it adaptable for 5e? Or
it is, let's see, Red Tide is, I don't remember. It's an old school rule set, so it's really easy, and it's none of it's statted. Like it's tags, you know, ruthless and I don't know. He drops these words. Let's see, what do I have open here?
That's another thing I need to figure out. Ship combat.
I'm not like this. I'm on.
All right, so he's basically got these things called sites, right? Is what he calls them, locations. All right, and there's court sites, ruin sites, and wilderness sites, and community. So community is like a settlement. Court is like a group of people interacting, like a noble court or a city council or something like that. It could be even like a tribe somewhere.
I love her.
Ruin is just that, a ruin, and wilderness is just that, a ruin. So he's got tags. So let's see, in these ruin tags.
I've got to get my hands on this. This is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
Let's see. So like the first 5: Ancient Archives, Aspiring Conqueror, Automation Servants, Birthing Cyst, Bitter Remnants, Civil War. So you roll on this D100 table and you get Dire Tombs and Raider Lair. And you mix those tags together how you see fit, right? And
It's so good.
Distant Gate, Lost Colony, you know, Decrepit Structure, Fallen Sanctuary, False Front, Living Dungeon.
Want this so bad? Where is it? Give it to me.
Drive-through RPG. It's called Worlds Without Number. There's a free version.
Oh, hell yes.
It just doesn't have the art and it doesn't have the system for post level 10.
God, that's fine.
But you're not using the
fucking
system,
table.
yeah. So I got Red Tide and used it for a lot of stuff. Actually, funny enough, Sanguera, the Caspian Valley, is built with Red Tide. He also did Stars Without Number, which is a sci-fi setting, and he did a lot of faction work with that. So,
where's the free version?
It probably won't.
PDF 1999. Oof.
Scroll down.
Hardcover.
Customers who also bought this.
Yes, I can, bitch.
Also purchased.
Is it right there?
Stars Without Number, Persons of Interest, Stars Without Number, Original Free Edition. Here we go. Gotta find the Worlds Without Number one. Polychrome, Starvation, Dead Names, Red Tide.
There you go. It's in Discord. My internet connection is unstable.
Yes.
But this thing is amazing.
Mine's
like,
to be too.
I literally backed this Kickstarter just for the GM tools. And I got so much more out of it, you know.
Nice.
I didn't care about the system, didn't care about the setting. I just wanted the tools. And like the tools are amazing. But the system is really good too. I really like it. And it's pretty fun.
Nothing I love more than a good
Literally, I was like,
yeah. Oh god. I'm turning them all into spreadsheets. So I'll give you a link to that when I finish those.
Nice.
Yeah, but
I cannot wait for that.
It's a very cool. And we did a first adventure, and it was basically we did a session 0 and tried combat, and then we did a first adventure that ended in a combat where Carter almost died. He came really close, and I was like, okay, I meant for this fight to be balanced. It wasn't balanced. So I felt bad.
You do.
Because I didn't project that it was going to be an unfair fight. Like if I would have projected and said, oh yeah, you guys know that this thing is tougher than you are and might take you out, then I wouldn't feel bad about killing someone. But saying, hey, you got to go kill this creature and then killing someone by accident, no, that's not cool.
Whoops.
So like I gave them like a lot of chances to revive him, and it just wasn't working, and then he was like, oh hey, look, this thing on my character sheet says I'm stable automatically. And I was like, yay.
Got him, coach.
So it worked out in the end, but now they're going to
first half, not gonna lie.
They're going to explore a dungeon that I'm randomly generating. So the hard part for me about this is not using all the tools I already have in addition to his tools, just because I'm just trying to use the tools in the book at first. But I've got all this stuff that I've developed from, 5e and just all this mishmash of fucking tables and shit that I combine together.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited. We're playing on Thursdays. And then there is maybe a Masquerade campaign starting?
Yeah, I'd love a Masquerade campaign. Will was talking about trying it at some point. I certainly wouldn't mind playing Vampire.
Well, I dropped in there.
When do you want to run it?
Not Tuesday, not Thursday.
Well, I mean, we're about to complete your campaign, aren't we?
I will not let you.
Yeah, but I think we're going on with D&D.
No.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, later, down the line.
I don't know. I want something fantasy.
Okay.
Sci-fi fantasy, maybe. Maybe we'll do Worlds Without Number. I've got a lot of stuff like that I really want to run.
I want to run Vampire. Let's run Vampire.
I'm good with it. If you guys pick a day, because there were like 5 people interested in that Discord, right?
There were.
That's a group. That's a fucking coterie right there. And I just ran vampire
and a singer.
for the in-person group, my kids and my brother-in-law. And my kids did not like it.
Demi, that's so horrible.
Aw.
Well, so
Why
the intention was to find out how to play vampire and what the themes were, right? And the theme of vampire is surviving, making it day to day without losing yourself in the minutia. And that was just boring to them. They were just like, what? So we're going to play out every day? Yep.
Okay, I'm just saying. Like,
but that's awful. That's what it is. And they're like, okay, good. We just don't like it. That's fine.
Oh, good.
And then I was like, do you want to play something else? And did the Matt Colville thing where I threw out 3 things that I want to run. And they picked Worlds Without Number.
But it's way cheaper than getting it artificially all done,
I like
all you have to do is
I don't know, maybe I just like the artifice of Vampire, the aesthetic, but I loved playing Vampire the Masquerade on PC, and I like games about secret societies and hidden worlds, and I really like the character that I built. I want to I don't know, I really want to play my dopey pothead vampire, just go around and be a lesbian. It's gonna be great. That's what I want.
Well, my sister Karen got the vaccine. She's 18.
It's all good.
Well, rally that group.
She said she got a fever for
an hour. So whatever your intentions, whatever the group's intentions, after we complete your campaign, my vote is for vampire.
Yeah.
Bet. What the fuck?
She has asthma.
Here we go. So do we have any questions we can ask from our viewers and answer real quick?
We have a list somewhere.
So the doctor said that the reason why it hit me harder, the vaccine, is because
Let's see. Who was this guy? So far back.
We should pin it somehow.
What did Rihanna go to the hospital for? What did she do now? Well, you said she's in the hospital.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Oh,
as a DM, how deeply do you prepare for every session?
Yes. Would you like to go first, or should I?
I can go first. Yeah. I mean,
I'll sacrifice my type.
If I go over an hour per session, then I feel like I'm doing something wrong. I don't think that I should. Well, I should have to prepare more than an hour per session. So when we played Vampire, I spent probably about 30 hours prepping the first session. And a lot of that is because I have to create a world for them to live in, right? I have to create all these NPCs with motivations. It's not D&D. It's not like there's monsters out there, go fight them. It's like there is a group of people here who like and hate each other, and you need to navigate those waters.
That's not how it works.
So it's not something that I had done in a long time, so I wanted to make sure that I got it right.
I mean,
I took about 30 hours. But after that, that's nothing, right? So if I play 30 sessions with that, then I break even. Past that, it's like the world is set up. I have nothing left to do, right?
Yeah.
I have to, give them places to explore sometimes. But, in a modern setting, that's really easy, because we can just think of, okay, what does a bank look like? That's what it looks like. Okay, what does an apartment look like? That's what it looks like. With Sanguera, before this session, I probably put about 3 hours of prep, but now I'm good for 12 sessions. I don't even know. It depends. We've got, I think it's 16 things on the list to go through, and those are all mostly prepped. There is very little that is not prepped about them.
And what's great about that is that most of the things on that list are player generated. They came from the players coming together and going, okay, who do we know? Who can we go to? Let's make a list. And that I think would be a great strength of vampire if we could adapt that. Like that's kind of what I do in my campaign. I make them come up with their own contacts and I help them build that list of people they know. And then like I can go in behind the scenes and go, okay, this contact hates this contact hates this player. So I think if we did vampire, it'd be really cool to be like, who are 3 people you know? And then just to take like an hour and go like, just like draw like a quick web, like connect them up and be like, okay, this person knows this person hates that person, done. And then like the players are then responsible not just for their stories but for their own conflict, which I think would be really compelling. And like every time you encountered an NPC you made, like you'd be like, hey, it's my friend. I would love that.
I just don't think it's a good fit for our group.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely lose Landon.
Because he's played it once and he doesn't like it.
Right.
Damn. Well, shucks. I mean, I know Juju has played Vampire and he seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's yeah, he played it back when we were method role players.
Whoa.
So like it's a very heavy. It brings up very heavy emotional like time in our lives.
Oh. Is that good or bad?
Neither. I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, it's, but that's the association with vampire. So he was like, "Oh man, I don't want to play vampire." And I'm like, "Look, this is going to last like 5 sessions." And he's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Come on, we're playing with Carter and Landon."
Okay.
You're not going to have to hold anybody who's crying. It'll be fine.
All right. Damn. So it's like there's a lot of emotional labor involved for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or there was. The group we were in was like that though. Like we played D&D that way. No, I'm telling you, we got 5 people interested on Discord. Rally them up. Yeah. Pick a day. I'm good. I'll run it.
Bet. Okay. Because I'm already playing in someone else's game on Saturday, but it's kind of off and on. Man.
I can do an every other or.
Maybe. We could do every other Tuesday. Our main group on Tuesday and then other group other Tuesday.
Maybe.
I would not mind that at all. I really want to, I don't know. Maybe it's just because like I'm fucking like blue balled with the setting. Like I keep making the same character with different like DMs and they're like, the game fell apart. And I'm like, why did you make me do that? I want to be this character. I don't even know that they're particularly good or fun, but now I have to. No, I'm doubting myself. I'm going to have fun. I love this character and I know that I'll love playing as them. I'm excited. Bet. Same question for me. How much time do I spend prepping? It might just be because my fucking mental state is completely deteriorated as a result of the pandemic, but I spend almost no time prepping my sessions now. Basically, it's me talking to you and then laying in bed for 3 hours and then, it's game time. And then looking at like the notes app where I've written like 3 lines on what's going to happen tonight and going, okay, so, and then just like describing something for 20 minutes and then going, wow, this is so cool. And I'm like, yeah, wink, had it all up here.
That's the life of a DM, right? I think that there have been a lot of sessions that I've run blind.
Yeah. That's when you run a session blind and then you hit something unexpected and it evolves into like a new gameplay element or a new twist to the story or a new character. Like that's the best. It's like you did no work and you got rewarded for it. Like right. Awesome. So it might be a problem that I have trouble like prepping. I used to over prep. I ordered a big ass fucking life-size vinyl map of the Forgotten Realms and I drew on it all the different locations they could go to and measured out how long each like day of travel would take using a ruler and like the little legend there of like 1 mile equals this, like how long per day. Then I statted out like a whole year worth of events that were going to happen in the campaign. And then it fell apart and this is collecting dust now. And it will forever because I'm an idiot.
Well, I mean, there's probably stuff in there that you can pull out.
Maybe so.
You know, and there's probably stuff in there that you can think back on and go, oh, I can use that here. I mean, that's another great thing about like, because it sounds like they're prepped situations, not prepped encounters, not, okay, you're level 5. These are the monsters you're going to encounter.
Oh yeah. If I ever prep, it's just like, what's going to happen in the story?
Yeah.
Like, where do I want the story to go? Here are some things the players will encounter, and then they can react how they want to.
So if your Forgotten Realm stuff is like that, then it should be easy to drop in almost anywhere, right?
Maybe.
Change the theme around, change the setting around, boom.
Yeah. There's stuff that, there's definitely stuff I could adapt, and there are things that would only work because of the emotional investment that player had in those sets of characters, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I talked about the grandest plan I ever had was to have a campaign about campaigns, a campaign about stories where the players are trapped in like a Strahd, like Barovia style land where no souls can leave, run by a lich who's just like treating this whole like giant underground cavern as his testing ground, like trying to create religions and see if you can create gods by getting enough people to believe in them, and then like playing out like a whole like war story where like people live and die on his whim, just so he can tell an interesting story and see like what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And like the culmination of it is like revealing their ally who's been this lich this whole time, and him going like, well, you're my best friends because like centuries ago you began this journey with me, and I've been reincarnating you ever since, just so I can recreate the adventures we had. And like they defeat him, and they can like finally go to the surface and escape that. And then like to have all that just so in a whole other campaign, they could go delve into the Underdark and find like a gate to like a closed off area, and like have the lich's voice come from inside like, oh my friends, I knew you'd return. Like they've been reincarnated again in a whole other campaign. Like it's almost like he's aware of the fourth wall and he recognizes the players, kind of like a sentimental kind of way.
That's awesome.
And I was like, that would be cool. It's never gonna happen because both campaigns that I was thinking of are dead. Someday, my master stroke.
Got to write it into an adventure and sell it on drive-through.
Yeah, I will. Anything else we want to cover?
I don't think so.
All right. Goodbye, viewers. Goodbye, listeners. Here comes the outro.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
She is such
Cheers.
a guy.
Bye.
It's ridiculous.